The detour sign appeared just after mile marker 47, where Highway 101 curved through the densest part of the Gifford Pinchot National Forest. Orange reflective letters. Road closed ahead, local traffic only. An arrow pointed left onto a narrow gravel road that disappeared into the trees. I was 3 hours into what should have been a 5-hour drive from Portland to Seattle, already running late for a job interview I couldn't afford to miss. My phone showed no service, and the last gas station had been 40 minutes behind me. The detour looked legitimate enough. The sign was official, the kind the highway department used, not some hand-painted plywood. I took the turn. My name is Sarah Cunningham, and I've driven through the Pacific Northwest my entire adult life. I know how these mountain roads work. Logging companies maintain hundreds of miles of private gravel roads through the National Forest, and highway closures sometimes reroute traffic through them. It happens. The road was rough but passable, wide enough for 2 vehicles with fresh tire tracks in the dirt. For the first 10 minutes, everything seemed normal. Then the road began to narrow. The gravel turned to packed dirt, then to 2 ruts with grass growing between them. The forest pressed in closer on both sides, branches scraping against my car with sounds like fingernails on metal. I kept expecting to see another sign, an arrow directing me back to the highway, but there was nothing. I checked my phone again. Still no service. The GPS had frozen on the last known location, my blue dot sitting uselessly on Highway 101 while I drove deeper into woods that apparently didn't exist on any map. I should have turned around. The problem was that the road had become so narrow, I couldn't safely execute a 3-point turn without risking getting stuck in the soft shoulder. I kept telling myself that it had to connect eventually, that logging roads formed networks, that I'd find my way back. After another 15 minutes, I saw the truck. It was parked across the road at an angle, an old Ford F-250 with rust eating through the wheel wells and a cracked windshield. Dark green, maybe blue, hard to tell under the layer of dried mud. The driver's door hung open, no one inside that I could see. I stopped about 30 feet away and sat there with my engine running, trying to decide what to do. The truck wasn't completely blocking the road. There was maybe 3 feet of clearance on the right side between the truck's front bumper and the trees. I could probably squeeze through if I was careful. I waited another minute, thinking whoever had parked there might return. The forest around me was absolutely quiet. No birds, no wind, just the idle of my engine and the tick of cooling metal from my hood. I pulled forward slowly, angling toward the gap. My passenger side mirror cleared the truck's bumper by inches. I was almost past when I saw him. A man was standing in the trees on the left side of the road, maybe 20 feet back from the shoulder, watching me. He was completely still, his arms at his sides, wearing a tan Carhartt jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. Middle-aged, maybe 50. He didn't wave, didn't move at all. Just stood there watching my car edge past the truck. I accelerated once I cleared the obstacle, my heart suddenly pounding for reasons I couldn't quite articulate. There was nothing overtly threatening about him. People parked on logging roads all the time. Hunters, mushroom foragers, wildlife photographers. But something about the way he'd been standing there, not walking toward his truck or away from it, just watching, made my skin crawl. In my rearview mirror, I saw him step out onto the road. I drove faster, the car bouncing over ruts and rocks. The road curved sharply to the right, then left, and I lost sight of him. I kept checking the mirror anyway, half expecting to see the truck appear behind me, but the road stayed empty. 10 minutes later, I came to a fork. Both roads looked equally traveled or equally abandoned. It was hard to say. No signs, no indication which direction led back to the highway. I chose left because it seemed to curve in what I thought was an easterly direction, toward where the main road should be. The route began to climb, the grade steep enough that my engine strained in second gear. The trees up here were old growth, massive Douglas firs that blocked out most of the daylight. The temperature inside the car dropped noticeably, and I turned on the heat. That's when I saw the second truck. This one was parked on the shoulder ahead, same make and model as the first. Same mud-caked exterior, but this one had someone sitting in it. I could see the silhouette through the rear window, a person in the driver's seat, not moving. I slowed down but kept going, watching the truck as I passed. The person inside didn't turn to look at me, didn't react at all. In the half second I had to look, I saw it was a man wearing a baseball cap, his hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead at nothing. My hands started shaking. I was being followed, or funneled. Someone had moved that first truck after I'd passed it, driven around on some parallel road, and gotten ahead of me. But that didn't make sense. There had barely been enough time, and I would have heard an engine, seen dust from another vehicle. Unless there were two trucks, two men. I accelerated again, pushing the car harder than I should on the rough road. A rock hit the undercarriage with a bang that made me flinch. The road leveled out and widened slightly, and I saw what looked like a clearing ahead, maybe a turnaround, somewhere I could finally reverse direction. The clearing turned out to be a small gravel lot, maybe 40 feet across, with a picnic table and a rusted burn barrel. A trail marker indicated a hiking path leading into the woods. But the important thing, the thing that made me actually say thank God out loud, was the other car. A silver Honda Civic was parked near the trailhead, relatively new, with Washington plates and a university parking permit in the rear window. Someone else was out here, someone normal. I parked next to it and got out, my legs unsteady. The air was cold and smelled like pine resin and old smoke from the barrel. I walked over to the Honda and looked inside, empty, clean. A textbook on the passenger seat, a coffee cup in the holder. Someone had been here recently. "Hello," I called toward the trail. My voice sounded small and wrong in the dense quiet. No response. I walked to the edge of the clearing, looking down the trail. It was well maintained, with wooden markers every 50 feet or so indicating distances. A popular hike, probably. But there was no one in sight, and the trail disappeared into shadow after about 100 yards. I heard an engine. I spun around and saw the truck pulling into the clearing. The same truck, or one identical to it. It parked at the entrance to the lot, blocking the only way out. The engine cut off. The driver got out slowly. It was the same man I'd seen in the woods, or someone dressed exactly like him. He closed the truck door with a metallic thunk and stood there looking at me across the 20 feet of gravel between us. "You lost?" he asked. His voice was flat, neither friendly nor hostile. "No," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just pulled over to check my phone." "No service out here," he said. He took a step forward. "Haven't been for years. Towers are all down in the valley." "I figured," I said. "I'll just head back to the highway." "Which way you planning to go?" The question stopped me. The way he asked it wasn't quite right. Not helpful or curious, more like he was testing me. "The way I came," I said. He shook his head slowly. "That road's washed out about a mile back. Happened last spring. You must have come from the eastern access." "I came from Highway 101, said. "Can't get here from 101, he said. "Not on any road I know." He took another step toward me. I moved sideways, keeping the Honda between us. My car was 30 feet away, but he was positioned between me and it. "Look," I said, "I don't want any trouble. I just need to get back to the highway." "Nobody said anything about trouble," he said. His hands were in his jacket pockets. "You just seemed confused about where you are. Happens a lot out here. People take a wrong turn, end up miles from where they meant to be." A second engine sound made both of us turn. Another truck was pulling into the clearing, identical to the first. It parked next to the Honda, and a second man got out. Younger than the first, maybe 35, with a few days of stubble and the same type of jacket. He didn't say anything, just leaned against his truck and lit a cigarette. "My brother," the first man said, as if that explained something. My mouth had gone completely dry. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to run, but run where? Into the woods? They knew this area and I didn't. Back to my car, the first truck was blocking the exit. "We're looking for someone," the first man said. "Young woman, about your age, drives a silver Honda. You seen anybody like that?" I looked at the Honda next to me, the textbook on the seat, the coffee cup. "No," I said. "That's strange," he said, "because that's her car right there." The second man pushed off from his truck and walked toward the trailhead. He stood there for a moment, looking down the path, then turned back to us. "She's not answering," he called to his brother. "She must have gone pretty far," the first man said to me. "We've been waiting for her to come back for a while now." "You didn't see her on the trail?" "I just got here," I said. Right, he said. From Highway 101, through the washed-out road. He was closer now, maybe 10 feet away. I could smell cigarette smoke on him and something else, sawdust, maybe, or fresh-cut wood. Here's what I think, he said, his voice still in that same flat register. I think you're a friend of hers. I think you two planned to meet here. Problem is, she went for a hike and hasn't come back, and now you're here asking questions, and that's making things complicated. I don't know her, I said. I've never seen her before. Then why are you here? I got lost. I told you. I took a detour and... There's no detour, he said. There's no sign on 101. There's no road closure. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. He was right. I'd seen a sign, I was sure of it, but now the certainty was crumbling. Had I seen it? Or had I just assumed a turn was a detour because I was distracted, thinking about the interview, not paying attention? I need to leave, I said. Can't do that, he said. Not until we find Sarah. The name hit me like cold water. Sarah, my name. But he was talking about the girl who owned the Honda. How do you know her name? I asked. He pulled something from his pocket. A wallet. Pink leather, small enough to fit in his palm. He opened it and showed me the driver's license inside. The photo showed a young woman with dark hair and a bright smile. Sarah Chen, 23 years old. Found this in her car, he said. Door was unlocked, which seems careless, you know. Leaving your wallet in an unlocked car in the middle of nowhere. You broke into her car, I said. Told you, it was unlocked. We were worried about her. Been waiting here since this morning, and she still hasn't come back from her hike. Starting to think maybe something happened to her out there. The second man had moved closer during this exchange. He was standing near my car now, looking through the driver's side window. This your car? He called to me. I didn't answer. Registration says Sarah Cunningham, he said, reading from something inside. That you? I'd left my purse on the passenger seat. He couldn't reach it without breaking the window, but he could see it, could probably see the wallet inside. Two Sarahs, the first man said. What are the odds? I'm leaving, I said. I started walking toward my car, trying to look purposeful and unafraid. The second man didn't move away from the door. He just stood there, blocking it, his expression neutral. Can't let you do that, the first man said behind me. Not until we figure out what happened to the other Sarah. See, here's the thing. Two women drive out here on the same day, park in the same lot. One of them goes for a hike and doesn't come back. The other one shows up right when we're getting worried. That's not a coincidence. Move away from my car, I said to the second man. He didn't move. Up close, I could see his eyes were bloodshot, his pupils dilated, either drunk or high or something else I didn't want to think about. Keys are in your pocket? He asked. My hand went instinctively to my jacket, and I realized my mistake immediately. He smiled, the first expression I'd seen from either of them. Thought so, he said. The first man was right behind me now. I could hear his breathing, smell the tobacco and wood smoke on his clothes. My brother asked you a question, he said quietly. Are the keys in your pocket? I turned to face him. He was close enough to touch me, close enough that running would be pointless. What do you want? I asked. I want to know what happened to Sarah Chen, he said, and I want to know why you're really here. I told you, I got lost. And I told you, that's not possible. So either you're lying or you're confused. Either way, we've got a problem. Behind him, I saw movement on the trail. For a wild second, I thought it might be Sarah Chen, that she was coming back from her hike and this whole nightmare would resolve somehow. But the figure that emerged from the trees was a third man, older than the other two, wearing the same type of jacket and cap. He was carrying something over his shoulder, something wrapped in what looked like a tarp. He walked past us without speaking and opened the bed of one of the trucks. He loaded whatever he was carrying inside with a heavy thump, then closed the tailgate and wiped his hands on his jeans. Trail's clear, he said to the brothers. No one else up there. The first man nodded. He looked at me, and for the first time, something like emotion crossed his face. Not anger or malice. Resignation, maybe, or pity. You should have stayed on the highway, he said. I ran. I don't remember making the decision. One moment I was standing there, the next I was sprinting toward the trail, the only direction that wasn't blocked by trucks or men. I heard shouting behind me, the sound of boots on gravel, but I didn't look back. The trail was steeper than it looked, and within 30 seconds my lungs were burning. I pushed harder, grabbing at tree trunks to pull myself up the incline. The path switched back sharply to the left, and I took the turn too fast, my foot slipping on loose gravel. I caught myself on a branch and kept going. I could hear them behind me, not running, just walking steadily, their pace unhurried. They knew I had nowhere to go. The trail crested a ridge and descended into a shallow valley. I could see a stream at the bottom, and beyond that, more forest stretching for miles. No roads, no buildings, nothing but trees. I left the trail and crashed down the slope toward the stream, sliding on pine needles, branches whipping at my face. I hit the water and splashed across, soaking my shoes and jeans to the knee. On the far side, I climbed up into a dense stand of young firs and pressed myself against the ground behind a fallen log. I tried to control my breathing, pulling air through my nose in slow draws. Every sound was magnified, the drip of water from leaves, the creak of tree trunks, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Footsteps on the trail above, multiple people, moving slowly. "She came down this way," one of them said. "Doesn't matter," another replied. "Nowhere for her to go." They were right. I knew they were right. I had no phone, no supplies, no idea where I was. Even if I evaded them, what then? Wander through the forest until I died of exposure? I'd left my car keys in my jacket pocket, my phone in the car. Everything I needed to survive was back in that clearing. The footsteps moved down the slope toward the stream. I heard them cross the water, the slosh and splash of boots in the current. They were fanning out, searching. One of them passed within 15 feet of where I was hiding. I could see his boots through a gap in the log, the frayed cuffs of his jeans darkened with water. He stopped, and I was certain he'd seen me, but then he called out to the others. "Anything?" "Not yet," came the reply from somewhere to my left. "Keep looking." They spent 20 minutes searching the area around the stream. I lay absolutely still, barely breathing, a root digging into my ribs hard enough to leave a bruise. Eventually, the footsteps receded back toward the trail. "She'll come back when it gets dark," one of them said. Nowhere else to go. I waited until I couldn't hear them anymore, then waited another hour as the light began to fade from the sky. When I finally moved, my legs had gone numb, and my hands were shaking so badly I could barely uncurl my fingers. I didn't go back toward the trail. I followed the stream downhill, hoping it would eventually lead to a larger river, a road, anything. The water was ice cold and I slipped constantly on the wet rocks, but I kept moving as the forest darkened around me. When it became too dark to see, I stopped. I was soaked to the waist, shivering uncontrollably with no way to make a fire or shelter. I found a space between two large boulders and curled up there, trying to preserve what body heat I had left. I don't know if I slept. Time became strange, stretching and compressing. At some point, I heard engines in the distance. Later, I thought I heard voices, but they could have been in my head. When dawn came, I started moving again. The stream led to a larger creek, and the creek led to a dirt road. I followed the road for 3 hours, my feet blistered and bleeding in my wet shoes. Just before noon, I saw a house. It was a small cabin set back from the road, with a newer truck parked outside and smoke rising from the chimney. I stood at the edge of the trees for a long time, watching, trying to decide if it was safe. Finally, I walked to the door and knocked. An elderly woman answered, her expression shifting from surprise to concern when she saw me. "Good Lord," she said. "What happened to you?" I told her I'd gotten lost hiking, that I'd fallen in a stream and spent the night in the woods. She brought me inside, gave me dry clothes and hot coffee, and called the sheriff's department. 2 deputies arrived within the hour. I told them about the detour sign, the trucks, the men. I told them about Sarah Chen's car and what I'd seen wrapped in the tarp. They took notes and made radio calls and asked me to show them on a map exactly where I'd been. I couldn't. Nothing I described matched any known roads or trails in the area. They drove me back toward Highway 101, looking for the turn I'd taken. We never found it. They checked the logging company records for active roads in that sector. Nothing matched my description. They searched for Sarah Chen's silver Honda. They never found it. They searched for a man matching my description of the first man I'd seen. No one in the area fit the profile. A detective came to interview me at the hospital where they'd taken me for hypothermia. He was kind but skeptical. He asked me if I'd taken any medication, if I'd been drinking, if I had a history of mental health issues. He asked me to walk him through the timeline again and again, and each time there were small inconsistencies. The color of the truck, the exact wording of what the men had said. Whether it had been a detour sign or just a logging road, I decided to explore. By the third interview, even I wasn't sure what I'd actually seen. They kept my case open for 6 weeks. No other reports of missing hikers came in. No body was found. No silver Honda. Eventually, the file was marked as inconclusive and filed away. I never made it to that interview in Seattle. I lost the job opportunity, and I haven't driven through that part of the forest since. Sometimes I still look at maps of the Gifford Pinchot area, tracing the network of logging roads, trying to find the route I took. Sometimes I search online for Sarah Chen from Washington, looking for missing person reports or obituaries. I never find anything. But every few months I check the missing persons databases for the Pacific Northwest. And every few months I find another name, another young woman who went hiking alone in the national forest and never came back. The numbers are small enough that no one connects them. 1 or 2 a year spread across hundreds of thousands of acres. Easy to dismiss as accidents, people who got lost or fell or were attacked by animals. But I know what I saw, and I know they're still out there.